Genesis 37 to 50. Trauma, projection, and the work of integration. What is rejected does not disappear. Trauma reorganizes perception over time. Integration begins when recognition replaces defense. A favored part is marked. The structure fractures. The bearer of promise is removed. The system adapts through denial. Blood is displayed. Grief is performed. Truth is buried. Time stretches. The wound travels through power, through famine, through memory. The past returns disguised as necessity. Tests repeat. Loss threatens again. Then a pause. Speech shifts. Responsibility appears. What was split begins to speak as one. Meaning forms, not by undoing harm, but by carrying it without repetition. Genesis 37 to 50 describes how trauma shapes consciousness over time. A rupture occurs early, but its consequences unfold slowly. The psyche adapts through suppression, substitution, and delay, while unresolved harm continues to organize perception and behavior. Integration is not immediate. Recognition requires pressure, time, and the reappearance of the original wound in altered form. Healing does not come through forgetting, but through encountering the past with new capacity. Joseph represents a concentrated potential within the system, a part that carries direction but lacks protection. Favoritism exposes this part to hostility, and the system responds by removing it. Betrayal is also projection. What the structure cannot integrate internally is expelled. The future is disowned by placing it outside the self. The concealment that follows is not resolution, it is adaptation. Life continues, but it is organized around a hidden fracture. Joseph's descent into Egypt represents containment under constraint. Developing capacity is placed inside systems that do not recognize its value. False accusation and imprisonment reflect how unintegrated systems interpret difference as threat. Compression becomes formative. The psyche learns structure, timing, and interpretation under pressure. Capacity matures not through freedom, but through endurance. Power arrives before healing. Competence exists without integration. The famine functions as necessity. What was buried is summoned back into relevance. Trauma does not return for revenge. It returns because life requires reckoning. The tests that follow are not punitive. They recreate the original conditions of harm to determine whether consciousness will repeat or transform. Another brother is threatened. Another father faces loss. Another choice must be made. This time, speech changes. Responsibility replaces rivalry. Sacrifice is offered without coercion. Recognition begins not with memory alone, but with altered response. Disclosure does not erase harm. It reorganizes meaning. The past is named without being reenacted. Forgiveness emerges not as instruction, but as clarity. What was meant for destruction is no longer allowed to define the future. Genesis 37 to 50 maps the long arc from trauma to integration. Harm initiates fragmentation. Time, pressure, and recognition allow meaning to reform. Healing is not reversal. It is the capacity to hold memory without acting it out again. Integration is complete when power no longer needs defense, and the past no longer dictates response. Trauma repeats until it is recognized. Recognition changes choice, and choice over time reshapes destiny.